Good morning, this is David Wendell with Bushcraft on Fire, and we're pleased to be with you for the fourth part of our Bushcraft immersion. If you remember last time we left off, we had found a spot where we could set up a temporary camp. Now this is going to be for when we're out and we're doing these camps for a night perhaps. You want to get to your secret spot as often as you can, but if you're going out overnight for a nighttime, you're going to want somewhere where you can set up a camp to sleep, where you can set up a camp just to have a base camp, and that's what we're going to do today to show you some techniques to do this. When I go out into the bush, what I like to carry for sleepwear is a hammock and a tarp. And so what I've done is chosen two trees, and you saw me clearing out the spaces below those trees just so I wouldn't have any hard stuff under the tarp. But this tree here, this is a hickory, and this tree here, which looks like an oak, are going to be my main trees that I tie off my tarp and my hammock to. So I want to show you a couple things while you're choosing your camp. If you look up here, you can see there aren't any large branches hanging out anywhere, deadfalls, what we call widowmakers, that are going to come down and kill me in the middle of the night. There's one up there that actually looks like it's a little bit dead, but I don't think that's going to come down and bother me at all, so I'm not too worried about it. It's certainly not going to kill me. So this looks like a good place to set up camp. I've also got a place over here where I can have a fire, and so I'm going to be able to, build a small fire here if I need it. I've got everything that I need in my secret spot to keep me going and to help me to be able to set up this camp. So let's set up the camp. Just takes a few minutes, and I'll show you how I do that, because I don't want to spend time out here setting up a camp. I want to spend time observing nature. I want to spend time getting to know the area. So hang with me and we'll set it up. What I'm going to do is, for my hammock, just throw a couple straps around the trees, and I'll leave them hang there for a minute. These straps make it a lot easier to hang up a hammock. Just takes a few seconds. So we've got that done. I'm carrying the Trek light today. I've done a couple of little adjustments on this Trek light. I saw a video and I really liked it. I've put a couple of D-rings on here, taken off the S-hook that was on there. So I just slide that D-ring through there, tighten that down, and that's it. Unroll that. Do the same thing on the other side. And about that quick, you've got your tarps or your hammock set up. Not very difficult. So you can see this whole setup, I think, weighs about 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds. Now what I'm going to do on this one, I'm just going to throw a half hitch through here. That'll keep that from slipping back. And I'll do the same thing on this side. Just throw a real quick half hitch through here. That'll keep that from slipping out. So that quickly I've got my hammock set up. Now let me get the tarp set up. And I want to show you a new tarp I got. It's a really nice tarp from Equinox called the Myotis Ultralight Sculpted Tarp. So let me get that out of the pack and I'll be right back with you. Alright, because I've got the Trek light, and the Trek light's about 9 foot long, I wanted to get a 10-foot tarp that would cover me really well, make sure I didn't get wet. So I opted for the 10 by 10 Myotis Ultralight tarp, Sculpted Tarp. And I'm going to take this out of the pack and show you in just a few minutes. This thing wraps up real nice, got its own little stuff sack. It only weighs about 20 ounces, so it's pretty light. And once I get this open, I will show you some of the things on this that make it really useful for bushcrafting. So let me go ahead first, get my ridgeline set up. What I'm going to do is just pull out my ridgeline. And when I set up my ridgeline, I want to set it up as low as I can over my tarp. So I'm just going to slide this through. And I'll run it over to this tree. Wrap it around to the ridge line. I'll get this tied off and be right back with you. Alright, before I set my tarp up, I generally always set up a prusik knot on the end of my ridgeline. The reason for that is so that I can keep the tarp. And we do have other videos, but I'll show you that prusik knot in slow motion in a second when I get the other one put on. Simply 2 half hitches around the line, and you want it neat. Sloppy camping's no good. And that will pull one way and not pull so easy the other way. So it'll keep my tarp nice and tight. So let me get the other one set up and show you that one. Alright, here's the ridgeline in slow motion. Let me show you that. I just take a piece of cordage. It's actually a little long. It's usually about 1 foot. But I don't cut my cordage. So I just slide the loop over. This cordage is doubled. I slide the loop over the ridgeline. Go through the loop 1 time. Go through the loop a 2nd time. And then pull it tight. Comes down and makes a nice little knot like that called the prusik. And again, slides one way. Very hard to slide the other way. Sometimes different kinds of cordage work better on 550 than 550 on 550, but this is still pretty good. So we've got those set up. Let's get the tarp, put it over here and set it up. On the edges of my tarp, I have tied some cordage just to make it easier to get it tied off. And what I do is just use a regular cord wrap with those. Puts a little knot in the end, but that's not a big deal. I don't pull it tight. And it keeps all my cordage nice and straight. So what I'm going to do is unroll this tarp. And I'm going to go ahead and throw it over top of my ridgeline. Now one of the nice things about the Myotis, as you can see here, I've got it upside down. Let's just flip it over real quick. This is a nylon ripstop, and it's impregnated with silicone. Keeps a waterproof tarp. But this ridgeline right here, I'm going to put right across my ridgeline. You can see that. I'm going to slide one of these prusiks through these adjustable straps. Now I'll show you this. This has 8 adjustable tie downs, and these straps are on what's called ladder locks, so that you can adjust them once that they're tied off to your tarp. You can adjust those, and it's kind of nice because it keeps you from getting any problems with slack in the tarp. And I'll show you how to use those in just a few seconds. I'm just going to go ahead and tie this off. Nothing fancy here, just an overhand shoelace knot. Tie a real loose second one to keep it from slipping. And that's that. We can move that. Come down to this end. We got quite a bit of wind today. Hope it's not bothering you, but it's going to help me to show this tarp a little better. We're actually waiting for kind of a windy day to show you how well this thing works. Okay, here's my ridgeline on the other side. Do the same thing. Go through that adjustable strap. Tie an overhand knot in here. With a bow on it. That'll keep it from coming out. If I don't pull it all the way through there. There we go. Keep it from coming out. So this will be my setup for the most part. Now, what I want to do is to center this tarp. And I'm trying to pull this tight, but I can't pull the other end, so I'm going to have to pull a little slack off of there. And I'll pull this just a little bit this way. You can see it's well over my hammock. Come out this way and tighten that up. So there we go. We've got that tight. All that's left is to tie off the ends. I want to do that so that I can show you what this sculpted tarp is all about. So I'm going to pull this out, leave it hang here for a moment, get a couple of tent stakes, and be right back with you. And what I've done, I've staked out a couple of these for time's sake. You can see the ridge line lays right down along my ridge. And you can see here, these have reinforced edges, and the ridge line is reinforced, and that is for not only protection, but it's also going to give it a good long life. I've got a couple options here. I can tie this down either through this strap, or I can tie it down to my line that I put on here. This is just some bank line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo this strap. I told you they had these adjustable straps on here. I'm going to lengthen that strap out, and I'm going to go ahead and pound the stake right about here. That's good enough. Oh, the stake looks like it's not holding up too well, but we'll see if it'll get us through. Going down now. Missouri, land of the rocks. Take my line, throw around there. Then I'm just going to throw a taut line hitch. And again, we have a video that has a quick release taut line hitch on it. Go over twice, and then back through. Everything I use is quick release knots. That way I can just untie it real quickly, but I can go ahead and adjust this line out. Now here's where this gets its name, the sculpted tarp. You can see how this comes down in an arc. Does the same thing on this side. One of the nice things about those is that if your tarp tends to lighten up or loosen up a little bit, these hold it tighter in the wind. And so all that I need to do, and this is nice and taut right now, but if this loosened up a little bit, I could just come back here, tighten these straps down, and make this really nice and taut. So now I've got no problem at all. Got my ridgeline hung up. I've got my hammock underneath of there, and I can lower that hammock just a hair probably if I wanted to. But for now, this shows you a setup. And this is how I'd stay out here for the night. I'm going to be totally protected by the elements. I'm going to have a nice comfortable bed to sleep in, not on the ground, off the ground, because I want to be close to rabbit trails. I want to be close to deer lays and deer trails so that I can see the maximum of what nature has to offer me. That's the whole point of getting out here on these immersion courses. So here's our tarp setup. Here's our hammock setup. And again, a good place to set up camp, a good way to set up camp. You might just want to bring a smaller tarp. You might just want to bring a sleeping bag, a bivy bag, whatever it is you want, that's great. Just get out into your spot and go ahead and spend time out there. Build a small fire. Make sure you have permission first. Set up a fire ring. But get your camp in place. Now, one word of caution. You're not going out to set up a permanent camp where these things never move. If you come out, you set up your tarp, your hammock. This took me all 10 minutes probably. You've got a fireplace. Get rid of it before you leave so that nobody knew that you were there. That's a good practice as well. So just scatter your ashes and make sure they're cold out. Get rid of the fire ring. This is quick and easy to take down as we showed on the different video. So again, some tips, some techniques. If you've got rocky ground like this, I highly suggest that you might use a hammock. If you're on a hillside, as we are here, you might want to use a hammock. Hammocks are very versatile and usable. So this is my setup. This is how we're going to set up our base camp. And the Myotis Ultralight nylon tarp that I've got now, this sculpted tarp, has really given me some more advantages in how I set my camp up. And I'm real pleased with it. One of the other things about this tarp, it has 8 tie downs. Those are on the edges. But it also has 7 different webbing loops. There's loops inside and outside up on the ridgeline. And with all those loops, I can set this tarp up in many, many different configurations. And perhaps we'll see that in another video. But until then, this is David Wendell with Bushcraft on Fire. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope you've enjoyed the review on the Myotis Ultralight Tarp by Equinox. And they're available in 8x8, 10x10s. They're a little bit pricey, but I think it's a really good, high-quality tarp. I like it. So until we see you again, have a great day. We'll see you soon on another video.